Today's Amud is Daf Tezvav Amud Beis. We'll be finishing Torah Yud Aleph. So we'll be starting from the Maimer Rabbi Bar Chana, which summarizes the whole Torah Yud Aleph. So Rabbi Bar Chana says, starting in Amud Aleph, that one time he was going on a ship and he saw a bird which was standing till its ankles in water with its head up to the Urakia. So he said, we thought there was no water there and we wanted to get out of the ship and go into the water to cool ourselves off. And then they heard a baskel that said, don't go there because an axe that belongs to a woodcutter had fallen in that water 7 years ago and still hasn't reached the bottom of the water. And not only because there's so much water, but also because the water is dirty. So Rav Ashi, when he heard the story, he said that bird was a ziz sodai. That's what it says, ziz sodai madi. So Rabbi explains that the tzipur is dibur. We learned the Torah till now that in order to do tshuva, a person has to be able to see where to do tshuva, and saying diburim of Torah, diburim kedoshim, is what helps a person to see all the places they need to do tshuva, and do tshuva, and little by little it goes up madrega after madrega until he comes to tfunas Torah amka, to understand the depth of Torah. So we learned, if you remember in Torah Gimel, that a tzibur is kneged dibur, because the carbon brought for a mitzara and is a tzibur, shtei tzibur and chayes taris, and a mitzara is being punished for using his dibur for the wrong way. So you see that the inyan of a tzibur is an inyan of dibur. So this tzibur is standing till its ankles in water, because it's till its ankles means till its lowest places, because we're using the dibur Torah in order to be meir even into lowest places where a person needs to do tshuva. And the reason why it's standing in water is because water is the inyan of a person. A person is made up of his father, his mother, mayim duchrim, mayim nukfin, mayim elyonim, mayim tachtonim. So that means he was standing in water. But we thought there's no water there, and that's why he's standing there. So the Rebbe explains that the Rebbe Bar Chana is saying they understood that it's impossible to zeichet a type of dibur, which is going to be meir for a person to know where to do tshuva, unless he's mevatel his kavod. Like we said, that if a person has a kvad peh, because he's not being mechabed Hashem, then he doesn't have that koyach hadibur through which his dibur can be meir to do tshuva. So that's what it says. We thought there is no water. We understood that we have to get rid of our kavod. The water is a person. The person has to take and be mevatel his self and his kavod in order to be zeichet to this dibur. So we wanted to get off the ship. So that the lashon is va'ilin lechusei. We wanted to go down, which is we wanted to do shuflas. But Rebbe said the problem is that we did in order to cool ourselves off. To cool ourselves off is the ikure nashin. The word ikure means to cool ourselves off, kar. It's also yakar. The Rebbe explains that they were making a mistake, because sometimes a person wants to be an anav and a shuffle, but not because he really believes in that he really believes in his shiftless. It's because he understands that to be a Baal Gaiva is actually it's not so respectful to be a Baal Gaiva. Some people, in a certain way, even if they're doing l'shem shemayim, the reason why they run away from kavod is because they think that kavod and gaiva is mevuza. But in other words, they're becoming a anav, trying to be zeichet hanivus because of their gaiva, because they want to be mechubed and they realize that gaiva is a mevuza thing. So they're trying to be zeichet hanava in order to be more mechubed. So a baskel came out and said that don't go into this water. Don't go down to this water. Meaning, don't try to work on your shiftless as a way of getting kavod, of not being mavuzah. You should work on your shiftless because taka, to look at you're concerned about kavod Hashem, not because you're so concerned about your own kavod that you're going to make yourself a shaf and anav. So he says, because we see that it says that the axe from the woodcutter fell here so many years ago, and 7 years ago, and it still hasn't reached the land, hasn't reached the water, the seabed. Why is that? That this chatzina, this axe, And it says is the word chatzina is v'chitzne ma'amer, which is a lashon of a lavush, of the nagra, of the woodcutter, of the carpenter. So Chazal, at one place, they say derech mashal lekeichem nagahu, that Hashem is like a carpenter that he constructs the world like a carpenter. So the carpenter kavyachol, the Eibishter, his lavush means Hashem gives lavish, that the gaiva of Hashem is fell down, and that's all the covet that people are looking for. It's because they're trying to take covet which belongs to Hashem, which fell down to this world. And he's saying that you're trying to become a navim, nor to be zeicha to more covet. In other words, you're still trying to take away covet from Hashem. You should come to a nava because you're trying to be mechabed Hashem, not because you're trying to be mechabed yourself. It says it hasn't reached the land, the ground, the bottom of the water, the bottom of the sea, which means we didn't come to Ara, we didn't come to Eretz, we didn't come to Eretz Yisrael. That he's saying the reason why we haven't yet come to Eretz Yisrael and we haven't come out of Galus is because of this avodah zarah of Gaiva. Because he said before, the Gaiva and Gadlus is avodah zarah, and the reason why we haven't yet been zeicha to Geula is we're still working with that Gaiva. And it's not because it's a lot of water. The Rebbe says that was being a lot of water, that you could say maybe the reason why we haven't yet been zeichet Eretz Yisrael is because there's a lot of umayis and who are trying to prevent us from being zeichet to the Geula. Says no, the reason is b'shum deredife maya. With the Pashut, it means that because the water is dirty. So, but the word redife maya, the water is running. That people are running after covet. What's preventing us from being zeichet to come back to Eretz, to come out of our galus, to mevatel over the Zerah, is because we're being readive after covet, after maya, after ourself. Maya, we said, as a person, we're not trying to mevatel ourselves. We're trying to build ourselves, and even our nivus, that we work on ourselves. Because only when a person the Pascal is telling all of this is in order we should run away from godless ad ketzei achrein, and we're only about covet Hashem as much as we could. Why? Because then the dibur that we have will be able to be mayor for us in all our places where we need to do tshuva. But how are you zeicha to that? How are you zeicha to break your gaiva? Like we said before, that's a very hard thing. So the way you do that is through Shmir Sabris of the Yichud Tata, which we said that means to be able to the Yichud of Yemai Sachol and the Yichud of Shabbos, that a person should be Mekadosh himself, the Gidrei Halacha, the Yemai Sachol, and the Gidrei Pnimiyas Torah of which is the Indian of Shabbos, the Indian of Tal Lamites Melachos of the Yemai Sachol and the Tal Iris of Shabbos, that when a person looks at Shabbos and he looks at the Chudei Law of Shabbos and he looks at the Pnimis Torah and Kabbalah and he uses that as a way of being Ma'or himself to be more Helig and more Dehoibin in Yemai Sachol, the Lamites Melachos, which he has to do throughout the week. So when a person has those Yichudim, that helps him to mevatel his own gaiva and to zeicha more to cover Hashem. So that's where Rav Ashi said this fish, this bird which they saw is a ziz sodaihu. So he says that that's yichudela b'chidei tata, because we said yichudela is sodai, is the same shakai. What's shakai? Sheishdai be'kusi chalberia. That person says that all it needs is Hashem. The more a person thinks that I don't need anything else besides Hashem, I don't need anything else, I don't need to have the gashmis of this world and to follow the gashmis of this world, then together with the Yichud Tata, then that's the bird, gives him that diburim, the diburim which he needs in order to be mayor. And that's what it says, and that's the Taisha Pasuk which we started this Torah with, Ani Hashem, Hu Shemi, Uchvadi Lach Lo Yatein. Ani Hashem, that's the Shem Hashem Yichudullah. Hu Shemi, Shem Elokim, that's Yichud Tata. How do you get to that? When you don't give the covet to anyone else. That when you have the Tehilas Hashem Yidaber Pi, then you don't give over the Diburim to Psilim, then you'll be able to be Zeicha to Yichud Eloh, to be Zeicha the Avanas Torah la'amka.